We've had a lot of players recently mention that they can hit the ball anywhere on the driver face and kind of get away with it. And I'm wondering if that's something that is a comment you've noticed in regard to the protocols and different things you did with distance, and that you tabled the driver, and if that's something that would reignite interest in that topic.
Yeah, I think that comment was before, we came out with our final distance and the change on the golf ball regulations, and after, so I think that's been consistent. I would say, comfortably speaking for both Martin and I, we had and have real interest in figuring out a way to provide a difference as it relates to the driver as well. To date, in terms of the 5-year process we went through, we didn't really come up with something that wouldn't have a much more negative effect on the recreational game. So in fact, like what we did on the golf ball is going to have much more of an impact on at this level than at the average level. When we started talking about changes in the driver or driving equipment, it was just the opposite. Much more significant impact across the board than at just at the elite level. So I think we said this when we announced, and if we didn't, I'll just tell you, we shelved it for now because we thought it was time to make a decision and put it on there, but we didn't retire the idea. We just didn't have an idea, quite frankly, that we believed was worthy of going to the market yet. But I would just put yet on that statement.
James?
Hi, it's Mike. You spoke about the USGA's responsibility earlier. I'm wondering, what is the responsibility to the TV audience?
Yeah, I mean, we really feel like we want to give people choices. First choice is, probably an unmatched level of network TV. And if you want to watch, even on Thursday, even when we're on USA Network, from 6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., compare that to some of your other experiences, and you can make your own comparison there. We also realize that everybody wants to watch it different. I've seen this happen in my own kids. They're watching it a different way than I'm watching it. So if they want to take those approaches, they can. And if you want to follow, a specific group or player, we give you that option as well. So I think what we want to do is give people a way to engage in the U.S. Open, and to do that in whatever way you want to do that. And you can never get perfect, but I'm really proud of the changes we've made in just the last few years to give you more and more options. And quite frankly, what our partners at NBC Universal have done in terms of just really opening up the hours. I mean, last year, if you think about it, we came on at 11 a.m. And went off at 10 p.m. On Saturday. It's think of another sport that commands an NBC audience the entire day like that. So yeah, that's exciting. And I think sometimes we almost take for granted, I'm saying myself included, just how much time you can wake up at 6:30 and leave your TV on until 5 and be watching. And then when that's over, or separately while that's going on, have other viewing options. And that's what we provide.
Obviously a lot of conversation always around the commercials at this event. I'm wondering, how does the USGA balance its own financial interests and generating, certain amounts of TV rights revenue against the maybe desires of golf fans who would prefer to watch a lot more golf with a lot fewer interruptions?
With choices, I would say to you that we have made, it's funny when I was saying to Doug, I mean, we have made a significant reduction in our own promotions, and in fairness to NBC, they've matched us. Because this is our big microphone too, and so we like to be able to use this opportunity to share all the stories of the USGA. So cutting back on that doesn't come easy. We also understand that they've paid for our rights, and they got to monetize those rights as well. But if you prefer to watch it a different way, you can go on our app and watch it, all day long in a whole different way. I'm sure NBC in the audience probably doesn't love that comment, but I mean, we just try to provide options. Some people want to watch it a certain way, and you can go, if you like all access and more of the red zone, jump around, which you probably described my 26-year-old. There's an option for them. So yeah, I don't think this has to be a one-size-fits-all anymore, and I think if you really understand the viewing audience in the game today, especially an event this size, it's about giving them choices, not just a one-size-fits-all.
Doug?
John, given the nature of these greens, as much as you want to take things to the edge for a U.S. Open, how difficult is it to do that without it getting out of control?
Well, I think it's always difficult, Doug. Our strategies are built around tough but fair, but these are unique greens, no bones about it. I think, look, just to put it out there, I think what we're endeavoring to do, we look at the weather. That's always part of it. But I think the way we think about it, we'll play in the mid-13s for most of the day. That'll drop down as the day goes on a little bit, but we think with the whole locations we choose and if the weather cooperates, we think that's a good place to be, along with everything else that's here with Pinehurst. It's not just about speed on these greens. You know, there's the wonderful putting greens themselves and how firm and fast they get, and I think fairways too. I think there's a lot more that Donald Ross intended here, even off the fairways. Even the visuals that you see, the way it turns, the bunkers. I think we're really working hard on the bunkers too and getting them just right for these great players. So it's a lot of things.
I was just curious with the change away from bent. Is it easier to control?
Easier to control. No, it's just different. I don't know that it's easier. I think it's just a different putting green surface, which we're familiar with. I wouldn't call it easier. It's just different. Yeah.
Question on the left.
For Mike, regarding the purse increase this year, as you think about the strategy there for the rest of this decade or so, is there an ambition to return the U.S. Open purse to the single largest in golf like it was the previous decade or so?
I'll be honest with you. We don't sit in rooms and say, how do we, we want to make sure that our purse matches how we feel about the rest of our championship, which is a life-changing difference in the game. And I think we're there, and we'll continue to kind of monitor that. I think there's probably some, if we went $1 million higher than some others, they'd just go $1 million, and I'm not really sure that's the best answer. But I don't think anybody who wins this week and walks away with $4.3 million and quite frankly, all the other that comes with winning the U.S. Open is going to question whether or not that was an event that's changing. We're proud of our purse. I'm proud of the fact that we as an organization consistently ask ourselves whether or not we think we've got our purse right, our TV right. I mean, all those things have changed quite a bit in the last few years. And change is uncomfortable, but I think we're not only keeping up with the times, but hopefully, at least in the landscape of majors, in a lot of these cases, we're leading. And you guys can decide if you think that's right or wrong, but that's how we think about it.
Question on the aisle. Rex?
For John. I think you used the term same Pinehurst compared to 2014. I believe that applies to the total yardage as well. Given the conversation we're having about distance gains over the last decade or so, what does that say about this golf course, that you can essentially play it the same way we did 10 years ago?
Oh, I don't know what it says. I know that we will be very similar. We looked at lengthening. We chose not to. I think we'll play it overall a bit longer than we did. We move it around a lot. And I think, look, players are hitting 10 yards further now than they were 10 years ago. So that's part of our strategy. We think about that. But so I think all in, we'll play it a little bit longer than we did in 2014, but that's just how we'll move it around. And it was just a choice we made.
Right next to him, Brendan.
Hey, John. Right back at you. How do you weigh player feedback in real time versus, you have a plan coming into the week. You want it to be this.
Yep.
Then the reactions are that. And how do you go from deviating based on that? How do you kind of weigh those scales?
Well, we've got a team. Scott Langley leads that for us, our player relations capability, but he's got a team of 5 or 6 around him. And, it can be a lot of things. It's certainly about the golf course. We pay attention. We listen to what the players are saying. We ask them questions. We have a number of the players that we really trust their opinion. They understand the architecture. They understand what we're trying to achieve. And so we'll seek their opinion. We don't just sit back and wait. And, Scott played on the tour for 10 years. He won on the tour. He's got a great relationship with them. And it doesn't just stop with the U.S. Open. We did that 2 weeks ago at Lancaster Country Club. We engaged with players all throughout that week. So, look, and I think it's our job to really seek that and understand it and let it inform our decisions, but not drive all of our decisions either. We're gonna be the USGA. It's gonna be the U.S. Open, and we're gonna be tough but fair. And the players know that. And I think they want that. I think that they want to win something special. We're tough but fair, not just to be tough but fair, because when you win, it means what Bob Jones won, what Ben Hogan won, what Tiger won. It just means more. There was a U.S. Open champion a few years ago. It sticks in my head. It's a story I tell our team. He sat in a room just like this. I was there. I won't name him. But he shot 67 in the 3rd round of the U.S. Open. And a member of the media, might have been one of you in the room, said, did you enjoy shooting 67 today in the U.S. Open? He looked around a little bit, and if you know this player, he's pretty cerebral. He says, I don't think what I did today was enjoyable, but I really feel like I achieved something. That's what we do. That's the way we think about it.
I would say, Brendan, too, it's not just golf course. In terms of, I remember standing on the range last year, Saturday and Sunday, talking to players about the U.S. Open experience. One of the things we heard is the recovery system, what's kind of happened in ice baths and saunas and that kind of stuff is really was growing faster than we were. So the commitment that we've made in the last year to the player recovery process. So it's not just about golf course feedback. It's just making sure and ease of their family's experience and getting in and out of golf course, that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that we want to make sure. We're going to John's point, we're going to make it probably uncomfortable during their 18-hole experience, but the rest of the experience doesn't have to be. And so that's some of the stuff we want to understand as well.
It's a great point, Mike. We work hard on the experience, not just on the golf course. Super good point.
In the back, Bob.
Mike, John actually, I think, referenced this on the June 3rd, the final qualifying day on Golf Channel, and I think you were asked about it at the media day about the access for live golfers, and that's directly via maybe their points list or what have you. How serious of a discussion is that for you going forward? And what could you envision that maybe being if that were to even come to pass?
Yeah, so two things. I mean, first, let's start with the obvious. I mean, about half of this field is filled open, and I think we had 35 players from LIV that were exempted right into final qualifying. So if they really wanted to be here, they could go play 36 holes and qualify, and some did, to their credit. I think we have 13 or 14 LIV players in the field, and that's essentially what we've had in 22 and 23. There is no out-of-bounds stakes on our field criteria. In other words, this major, probably different than some others, you can get in. It's not a closed field. It doesn't require a committee or an invitation. If you want to play in this field, you got an opportunity to play in this field, and we're proud of that. I would say to you, to your specific question, John and I both talked about it, and we're definitely going to talk about it in this offseason on whether or not there needs to be a path to somebody or somebodies that are performing really well on LIV that could get a chance to play in it that way. I think we are serious about that. Exactly what that looks like and how that'll curtail, I'm not just being coy. We haven't done that yet. I also think, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, we've always felt like for the last maybe year and a half that we're always 3 months away from kind of understanding what the new structure is going to look like. And so before we kind of react, what is LIV going to be? What's the PGA Tour? And so we always kind of felt like, we're just about to know that answer, so let's figure that out. And now I think the reason we're being more vocal about looking at that for next year is, maybe this is the new world order, and if that's the case, we wanted to take a look at that. So I think it's feasible. I don't think it's a huge pathway, but we do offer other pathways through DP or Korn Ferry, and so we know that there's an option to get there. But even that said, since the first, I think they played their first LIV event the weekend before our 2022 U.S. Open, and in that U.S. Open there were 13 LIV players suspended at the time playing in our championship. So we're not a closed door, and if you want to be here, you got to want to be here, but if you want to be here, there's certainly a way to get here.
On the left, Matt.
John, can you speak about tee positions? Because in 2014, you moved the tees around, and because of the nature of the greens, where the pins are located and where the tees are located are integrated together, I'm sure. How do you alert the players to this about the possibility of the tees being put in different places? And especially, like, for example, hole 13, would that be a drivable par 4 possibly? Do you alert players to this possibility that the holes could be played from these different positions so that they're prepared for it when that comes time? Or is it just a surprise that day?
No. Well, I don't know that we alert players. I think over the last couple of decades, I think they know us pretty well now that we're going to move it around a lot. It's kind of who we are and what we do. We believe in giving players choices everywhere we can. And, in 2014, we played a number of holes drivable. You referenced 13. We played 3 drivable twice. We played number 7 up, way up. We moved par 3s around, giving different yardages, angles. That's what we do. As far as alerting players, I think if it changes, if the approach that a player would change the architectural approach that the player would have to look at and experience, we would show them what we would do in practice rounds. But if it's just an exercise of math and it's in their yardage book, then we probably won't, and haven't really. We haven't had, I don't believe, I'd have to think, had really any alternate tees. But we will move it around, and it's just a matter of them doing the math, and they do that every week. So it's nothing unusual. I think they expect it, and we will. It really is in real time based on what, we like. Mother Nature has a seat at the table. And it's an outdoor game until we put domes on these great places, which I hope to heck we never do. It's a real-time decision, but we do plan to move it around.
The far back, Adam Shupak.
Mike, earlier you mentioned the friction in the professional game, the need for unity. Is there also any progress in getting unity with the ball rollback, and how important is the PGA Tour support for that concept to work?
Give me one more time, just a little loud. I'm not sure I follow you. I just couldn't hear you.
Adam, it was hard to hear you.
Couldn't hear you.
How important is the concept of how important is the PGA Tour support and PGA of America to the concept of rolling the ball back? Has there been any progress with that?
I'll give you an answer, but I would say, like anything I say, you should probably follow my actions more than my words. I mean, our actions were, we came out and were pretty strong in the idea of an MLR, an individual ball that we played at a higher level and nothing at recreational level. In real clear conversations, PGA Tour and the PGA of America asked us on their top of their list of concerns was that. In an effort to, I always say that we lead in a huddle. We try to bring the industry together and hear everybody's points of view. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to call a play, and that's our job. So we call a play. But in that huddle, we heard loud and clear that the idea of a bifurcated product line was really concerning to both of them, and concerning enough that I'm not really sure that the PGA Tour and other tours would have implemented. And as I said from the beginning, this was never a paper exercise. We didn't want to do something, check it off our to-do list, and then it just never really affects the game long term. So our decision to go back to an across-the-board regulation, which admittedly, by going across the board, we had to give it more time, so longer to implement, and lessen the impact, so that the impact of the recreational game was minimal at best. We're all outcomes of those. I don't think those were our probably choice number one, but the right choice if you're actually leading in a huddle versus leading in a silo. And so, yeah, I think they're, not only do we respect their opinions, but their opinions fundamentally shape the final outcome.
John, one for you. Course is very much the same as you said, but in 2014 it was very brown, and now it's green. Why is that, and did what you were trying to achieve then not work?
That's a good question. I'll go back to Mother Nature has a seat at the table. It's rained a little bit more than it did last time. We had 5 weeks leading up to 2014 where it was very dry. And, this place is spicy and bouncy, and it's at its best when it's that way. But I'll say this, John Jeffries, Bob Farron, Kevin Robinson, and the whole Pinehurst team, we heard words like, this is the player feedback, words like mint, perfect, amazing. Here in the sand hills where it's sandy, the hydraulics are fast. I mean, to be as we are, it's pretty fun to see the players and the fans see this great place as it looks. But you can see it's starting to turn. It rained last Sunday, and it kept it a little greener. You'll see it as the weather progresses, what it looks like. It'll turn a little bit. It will not look like it did in 2014. And frankly, honestly, that's by design. I think it was just so dry in 2014, and we felt we could achieve something a little bit different and still have it be bouncy.
You have 2 or 3 more questions on the right.
Mike, you mentioned the explosive growth of the
Sure.
Yeah, I know. The explosive growth of the recreational game, but some of that has probably come at the expense of the professional game. If you're out playing, you're not watching. How do you reconcile those two sides of the game? How do you get fans of playing to become fans of watching on TV?
All right, at the risk of being snarky, I mean, this is what I was talking like every other sport in the world would say, gosh, if we could just be 50% bigger than we were 10 years ago. And we're 50% bigger and we're worried about, a TV rating 1 week or 5 weeks. Or if golf was a stock, it would be soaring. You'd be purchasing it. Whether you're a television producer, whether you're a golf course owner, whether you're a golf course, whether you're a golf club builder. Because there's just nothing better for the game than people loving it. If people love it, so if they're out playing versus watching the U.S. Open, I'm okay with that. That's pretty exciting for the game. It's exciting for them, it's exciting for their kids, because they're going to create more future generations of golfer. And if you're out playing because you love the game so much, you're going to come back. We're going to get you. You're going to be watching. I'm not going to worry about it this week or next month. But long term, I mean, there's virtually no way for us as an industry not to be over the moon about what's happening in the game. And if people didn't watch a couple of weeks, or if there was to me, a great example is I read these results of how Augusta was down on Sunday. Augusta was across the board 4 days up. But for 3 hours on Sunday, it was down versus a year ago. The headlines were Augusta was down on Sunday. I got to love my Augusta friends, because, if it was me, I'd be out there going, are you kidding me? Like, we were across the board, double digits across 4 days. But that's okay. I'm just saying I have zero concern about the future of the game and the future of viewership and the future of fandom, and because we're doing what we always wanted to do, and quite frankly couldn't. I mean, if I was being honest with you, only one other time in the Tiger effect did we see a bounce like this, but it was half the bounce of what we're experiencing now. And so, we can try to find a reason to not be excited about this, but we'd have to be looking for one, because this is pretty exciting time for the game. And for a group of people that put on 15 national championships, some are amateurs, some are women, some are boys, some are girls, some are professionals, some are. It's an amazing time to be doing what we're doing.
Another question on the left.
I'll get you an extra large shirt, though, before you leave.
Alex.
Yeah, Mike, since most of your championships are amateur championships, and there's so much money coming into the game now, including NIL, at what point do you start looking at, in case of, let's take this event, which is an open championship, why wouldn't you pay, if they earned it and made the cut, why wouldn't you pay amateurs what they deserve to get for making the cut here?
Yeah, I think as the amateurs, as we've tried to evolve NIL and amateur status, as the game have, we as the USGA kind of created an NIL and amateur status angle before the NCAA did, and so golf was kind of ahead of that time. I'm not sure. You may be right. We may be heading to that path sooner rather than later.